What? I ask no questions, so y'all tell no lies. The implication is that if I ask you something, you would then have to lie to me, and I don't want you to lie to me, so I'm going to ask you.
Okay.
We're not going to lie.
Oh, I get it.
I didn't know if that was like a saying or like.
Oh,
It is. It is a sentence.
Okay.
I can't even use idioms. All right. Let's finish. Let's finish talking about the media. Well, we got through digital media, didn't we?
Yeah.
We know what digital media is? Okay, so we already talked about digital citizenship, didn't we? We talked about political participation. Not really?
No.
Right? Like y'all are way too comfortable just talking all kinds of mess online. Because like people don't actually punch you in the face like they probably should. I don't mean like you personally, but like you understand that a lot of people participate digitally because there's a safety in that, yes?
Yes.
Okay. So I mean that's both good and bad. Honestly, like most things in life, there are very few things in life that are all bad or all good. Digital participation is the same, right? There's advantages to digital participation in the sense that people are more engaged, they're more active. Access to information is easier, right? Like if you had been getting online in any way, shape, or form in the last like 3 or 4 days, hopefully you were getting alerts to your phone that you're busy playing on right now, right? That warned you that that was coming. Or did some of you just freak out last period?
Oh no, we know it's coming.
Okay. I would hope that you knew that it was coming. Okay. That being said, with digital citizenship, with digital participation in online media, there is a massive digital divide. That is just a gap amongst interactive groups as it pertains to digital participation. And maybe not obviously. I think easiest for you to understand is the fact that there is an age-based digital divide. Yes?
Yes.
Right? I'm pretty sure I told y'all yesterday, for instance, my grandparents are not online, right? My grandparents do not, I'm pretty sure, don't even have the internet at their house. Okay? Conversely, poverty, socioeconomics matters for this as well, right? The more impoverished you are, the less likely you are going to be to get online. The U.S. government has done things to try to rectify that issue. Did I not put it online yesterday? If it's not, let me go do it right now. It would be. It would be if it's. I can talk and put it up at the same time. Okay. Because I'm behind. I uploaded the video this morning, and so it's currently buffering on YouTube, and it will go up here momentarily. Okay. So social media. Wait, did I just skip a slide? Okay, do I really need to explain to y'all what social media is? No? No? Okay, so hopefully you have an idea of what social media is. That being said, social media is very significant. It's very important in terms of usage, in terms of reaching new people, right? In terms of new methods for individuals to participate politically, right? So I think I mentioned yesterday, I at least mentioned yesterday about FDR and fireside chats. We talked about the radio, yes, right? The radio is our first broadcast media. It comes across radio waves. Okay, FDR then would get on the radio, like they brought in stuff into the White House, and he would sit there behind the desk, and he would tell you that like everything's gonna be okay, and you don't have any reason to fear, and yada 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 yada. Okay, so. That's correct. Okay. Cadence, it's up now. All right. So, one of the things we've seen then with increases in digital participation, right, or with increases increases in social media, the availability of social media. Social media is free, right? That means anybody can get on. And so Obama was one of obviously the earliest presidents to really use that. In fact, the Obama administration is actually a really good example for a wide variety of sort of digital concepts, right? We probably haven't. And during the Obama administration, the White House actually created a website that allowed you to petition the government like via the internet, which is really nice because it makes life easy for you, right? And then Donald Trump took that a little bit further because, good God, Donald Trump loves Twitter. Loved Twitter? He's not on Twitter anymore. He refuses to get back on now that they've allowed him back on, right? But I think I remember seeing the statistic that Donald Trump tweeted or retweeted on average 234 times a day while President of the United States. And now, understand that this is both a very positive and a negative thing, right? I think it's great that the President is actually engaged in social media and providing information to the people at regular intervals. That's awesome, right? I'll be honest, this is just my opinion, 234 times a day is probably a little bit excessive, okay? But it does make the president more accessible. It does make the president's line of thinking more accessible. Okay? So there are some significant advantages to presidents doing that. Okay? Next, we get to the concept of citizen journalism, right? So we talked about journalism yesterday at the very beginning of this, right? It's an ism. There's a whole set of structures and things like that. Nowadays, and due in large part to social media, every one of us theoretically could become like a journalist, right? Do I have any football fans in here? Anybody know who Adam Schefter is? Okay, if you pay attention to ESPN, you know that name. Adam Schefter is like the god of all things NFL newsworthy, right? Years ago, there was a random woman in Kansas City, Missouri, who tweeted out that the Chiefs were re-signing Patrick Mahomes. Right? Random woman. 4 hours later, took 4 hours for Adam Schefter to confirm that. Right? Anybody heard this story? Do you remember what she did for a living?
I know she told people about like buying alcohol or something.
She worked at a liquor store, right? A dude comes in wearing a Kansas City Chiefs polo, right, and buys 12 bottles of champagne at 10 o'clock in the morning, right? She talks the guy up a bit, oh, are you celebrating something? He's like, yeah, we're celebrating. She puts two and two together, basically guesses it's gotta be re-signing Pat Mahomes, right? And so she tweets it out. And here is somebody with zero training, zero expertise, zero connections anywhere that scooped everybody, right? Oh yeah, Schefter did give her credit. Absolutely, it was kind of fun. I think he even made jokes about I think some of the weird things about that dude. The dude has 2 cell phones. That's how much he's on his phone. When he first started working for ESPN, this is weird stuff you don't even know. ESPN refused to pay for unlimited texting and messaging on their phones, and so they just told him, they were just submit a bill, we'll reimburse, right? His first month's cell phone bill was $10,000. And so ESPN was like, we're going to change our policy, you can have unlimited, we'll pay for unlimited, right? So this concept then of citizen journalism really only exists because social media exists, right? Without social media, you really don't have this opportunity for, just us to scoop people, right? If somehow Caven goes in the first round of the MLB draft next year, right, and then he tells me that instead of going pro, he's going to go to college, and I tweet that, you would just definitely go pro, fair enough, okay? College will always be there, buddy. Right?
First round winner you can't pass up. That'd be funny.
Honestly, you probably shouldn't pass up second or third round. If I got drafted probably in the top 4 or 5 rounds of the MLB draft, I would go pro over going to college. So some benefits of online media. Obviously, it's more convenient, right? It should theoretically be most up to date, right? It should be the most current because you can update things literally minute to minute. I don't know if y'all ever pay attention, right? Do y'all actually read news online? Do you ever go to like an actual news service and read information online? Right? Especially if it's like a breaking news story, right? If it's we'll use a legitimate example that's happening right now. You know that right now the United States has no Speaker of the House, correct?
Yep.
Did y'all know that? Like 30 Republicans kicked Kevin McCarthy out of his job. Right? 30 out of 435 wielded the power to kick somebody out of his job. Okay? This has never happened before. Okay? If you were to go to CNN right now, or if you were to go to Fox News right now as they're starting to report at this on their actual website, and you scroll to the bottom, it will tell you like last updated, and it will give you a time when it was last updated, right? Because we haven't gotten to this because we haven't gotten to Congress, but basically right now, Congress cannot accomplish anything. They can't do their job. They literally cannot do anything because they have no Speaker of the House. Right? That's how substantial this event is. To the best of my knowledge, this has never happened before. Ever in the history of the United States. Alright? Online media should also be beneficial in the sense that you have a wide variety of viewpoints. Right? Obviously, all information should be on the internet. All viewpoints should be on the internet. Okay? Now, I will tell you right now, that does not mean that people seek them out. Right? We've already talked about that idea of confirmation bias. Right? You will seek out information that pre-aligns to what you already believe. If you identify as a liberal, you are not going and reading your news from the New York Post or Fox News. Right? Conversely, if you identify as conservative, I promise you, you will think everything on Vox or the Huffington Post is utter trash. Okay? Some concerns about media, online media specifically. One, quality. Okay? Again, anybody can say anything that they want. There's very limited protections, right? And there are very limited protections. We'll get into this a little bit more in our next unit when we get into civil rights and civil liberties and we talk about freedom of speech, right? But can I just claim that Kevin is a cheater in my class? Kevin, where do you want to go to college? You in the cult? You want to go to A&M? No? Okay. Right? Let's do this. Let's say for the sake of argument, you got a scholarship somewhere, right? We'll use Texas State as the example. Right? If I called your coach and was like, hey, he's a cheater, he cheats in my class, right? And they rescind your scholarship, do you have any recourse? Could you do anything about that? Possibly. Because I made a direct call to the coach? Maybe. Right? Now, if I just tweeted that out, no. At that point, you would have no recourse whatsoever. There is no expectation that anything that I put on social media is actually true. Actually, the reality is, this is not just online social media anymore. Y'all know who Tucker Carlson is? If you don't know who Tucker Carlson is, Tucker Carlson used to be on Fox News. Right? Tucker Carlson was once sued, right, by like people that Tucker Carlson slandered on the news. And Fox News' defense, in a court of law, nobody would really believe that what Tucker Carlson says is true. No intelligent person would believe that what he is telling you is actually real. Like, I need you to understand that for a minute. Fox News, that's the channel. The channel is Fox News. Claimed in a court of law that the person that they employed to speak to the people for an hour every night, that no reasonably intelligent person would believe that he was actually providing the news. Now here's here's the scary thing, right? Right? Because half of America goes, duh, we all knew Fox News was full of it. Right? Anybody know who Rachel Maddow is? Rachel Maddow is basically the liberal equivalent of Tucker Carlson. She is on a channel called MSNBC. They used the exact same defense. By the way, both defenses worked. Because apparently a judge also believed that no reasonably intelligent person would believe that what they heard on a channel called news was the news. It absolutely contradicts itself. But guys, this is why 2 days ago I was so depressed. I can't come up with a better word. When y'all couldn't figure out how you individually determine whether or not somebody is full of shit. Like, because here's the thing. If I tell you that the U.S. is about to enter into the Great Depression, right, which I tell students, I do, it's going to happen. I tell you all that. Do you believe me? Okay, then you're probably not going to change your behaviors. Right? What if you changed your behaviors because you believed me and I was wrong? Well, I mean, here's the great thing. For y'all, it really doesn't matter yet because you have no wealth. I mean, unless you're independently wealthy and I just don't know. Right? But the inability to discern what is real and not real, fake and not fake, false or fact or fiction, right? It is problematic. And here's the thing. Again, this is my opinion, right? There are some instances in which people just, oh my God, like you're a moron and that's a you problem, right? Anybody know what Pizzagate is?
No.
Yes? A couple of you are like, yeah, right? So when people talk about like Russian interference in the 2016 election, Russia didn't hack an election. All they did was like flood social media with a whole bunch of ridiculous BS stories. One of which was that Hillary Clinton was selling children into sex slavery in the basement of a pizza parlor. Okay? If you are dumb enough to believe that, that's a you problem. Right? Like, I want you to understand that. But there's a whole bunch of other issues that it's not the same. Right? And it becomes a lot more difficult to understand, like, what is a partial birth abortion and if and when they happen. Right? Okay. What is actually occurring in the United States today as it pertains to like gender reassignment surgery for 5-year-olds? Because I can find you information that says it doesn't happen, and I can find you information that says it does happen. Which one's telling you the truth? Realize how difficult that gets in order to try to figure out what is and isn't real. Because while we should all just generally think a multi, I think Hillary Clinton's worth like $500 million, right? The idea of somebody worth $500 million selling children into sex slavery is ridiculous. Now look, human trafficking, you make a lot of money human trafficking. I'm not advocating that. Not advocating that. I'm just saying you could, right? But Hillary Clinton was also getting paid like $250,000 to speak to Wall Street for 45 minutes. Like, if you can make that kind of money, you don't really need to be engaged in anything illegal. We understand? Okay. All right. So the self-selection bias, right? Our tolerance. We interestingly enough, the more access to information that you have, the less and less people are willing to accept alternatives, and the more closed-minded we actually become, right? Because now it's very easy to dismiss anything that does not pre-align with what we already believe, because we can easily find information that does align with what we already believe. That allows us to sort of filter out information. We call that a filter bubble, right, where we are selecting stuff that conforms with our preconceived ideologies, right? So that would be things like, was Obama actually born in the United States? You know, there's a whole group of people that believe that that man was born in Kenya, right? Like, the dude released his birth certificate. People were like, nope, it was a forgery. Alright? Trust in the media is actually decreasing significantly in America. And here's the thing, Donald Trump has not helped, right? Like, I mean, Donald Trump has called the media, called the press the enemy of the people, right? He has denounced all sorts of things as fake news. But I need you to understand that this is not a new occurrence to Donald Trump, right? In fact, if you listen to some, I don't want to call them conspiracy theorists, right? But if you listen to some people that do like just a lot of speculative sort of thought behavioral analyses, right? There's actually a large number of people that believe that Donald Trump ran for president of the United States in 2016, not with the intention of winning, but with the intention of trying to discredit the media enough so that after the election he could create the Trump News Organization, right, and set himself up to be a more reliable news source than everybody else. And then he just happened to win because the Democrats ran Hillary Clinton. Just speculation. I don't think Donald Trump could have beaten anybody else. I don't. Hillary Clinton is a terrible candidate. Terrible. Donald Trump was also a terrible candidate. Alright. Oh, that's Tucker Carlson and Rachel Maddow. She would probably be offended by that. Or he would. I don't know. What? Alright, so when we go back to last unit, we talk about like influences from political socialization and how you gain your political ideals, yes? Can media influence your ideas? Theoretically, we're going to say yes, right? A textbook would tell you yes. Most political scientists will tell you yes. I am not of that group. I don't think that the media is going to influence your opinion about issues. If you are pro-life, right, you are pro-life. If you are pro-choice, you are pro-choice, right? If you are pro-choice and you see, like, I don't know, a 3-day-old baby being aborted, that's not an abortion, that's murder, right? But, like, if that's how it's presented, it's probably not going to change your opinion. You're just going to think that that one instance is terrible. Yes? Okay? What the media can do as far as influence goes, and I will tell you this one I'm a huge believer in, right? The media can help set agendas, right? And what that means is the media will take guns as an issue. Yes? You understand there's a lot of people in America that think everybody should have a gun, and there's a lot of people in America that think nobody should have a gun. Okay? Your belief as to the sanctity of the Second Amendment or the meaning of the Second Amendment is probably not going to change based upon how many stories you hear from CNN about mass shootings. Right? But the number of stories that you hear on CNN about mass shootings might change your belief in how important the Second Amendment is. Right? Because if you are pro-gun control, right, you're going to hear all these stories and be like, oh my God, like so many children are dying or so many people are dying or whatever. Like, we really need to do something. Now is the time. We've got to get this done. Like, we've got to do something about it. It becomes a more salient or more important issue for you, right? On the other hand, if you are a very adamant, like, gun right, pro-Second Amendment person, you hear all of these stories, immediately your mind jumps to this, they're coming for our guns. Biden's going to take my guns, right? And you believe that the protection of the Second Amendment is a much stronger issue. In fact, you know what one of the best things that happens to the NRA is? Not the election of Republicans, but rather the election of Democrats, right? Why is the election of Democrats so great for the NRA? Because people panic and give the NRA a whole bunch more money, hoping that the NRA can prevent Democrats from stealing our guns. All right? So, the three things that they really do, in order to influence public opinion: agenda setting. This is what I was just explaining to you, right? The more the media talks about an issue, the more that issue becomes relevant in your life, right? And therefore, the more you think about it, and the more that you want to see something done about it, regardless of which side you're on. Do we understand that? Okay? The media can try to frame things, right? Framing is really just trying to interpret events for people. This is what happens all the time now, especially on your 24-hour news cycles in the evenings, right? I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's Don Lemon, Tucker Carlson, Rachel Maddow, Chris Cuomo. Don't matter to me. All of them are trying to frame everything, right? Kevin, what's a frame job in baseball?
Someone like the catcher framing pitches.
Yeah, what's a catcher doing?
Trying to make it as close to strikes as possible for the umpire to call it.
Trying to change somebody's opinion of what they actually saw. That's what framing is. Do we understand that? Okay? Priming is a little bit different. Okay? Priming is essentially framing before an event happens. Does that make sense? Right? So you could frame a meeting, but we know that Donald Trump actually met with Kim Jong-un, yes? Right? Like, no, I don't, to my knowledge, no other president has done that. Right? So framing would be after the fact, we're talking about what happened. Priming would be trying to essentially frame before it happens, right? We're letting information leak about what's about to happen in order to try to shape how audiences will view an event. All right, that's sort of the idea. I'm gonna let you go through the graphics here yourself. All right, so agenda setting. This is also called gatekeeping. Okay. The reality is the two real roles that I care about for media: watchdog. Do we remember that from yesterday? That's where the media is supposed to be telling us what's going on. Yes. Okay. That's the most important role of media, right? Gatekeeping becomes sort of the second real role of media. And I'll be honest, I think media gets both of them wrong. Okay, but gatekeeping is just the idea of talking more or less about an issue in order to try to increase the significance of that issue in the American populace, right, amongst American people. And again, the media might not necessarily have the advantage of changing your beliefs about the issue, but they can change sort of how you would rank it in significance or importance, right? So 3 years ago, if every single time you turned on the news, they were always talking about COVID, you would be like, oh my God, COVID's the most important thing in the world right now, right? And that's the idea of gatekeeping. And then specifically gatekeeping, again, use sort of a realistic example here, right? In 2020, that would be like the Hunter Biden laptop, right? They closed the gate to that. Nobody in the media would discuss that. Nobody in the media would talk about that. They were like, oh, it's not a real laptop, like it's Russian disinformation, whatever. The media can steer public attention toward and away from a variety of things based on what they choose to cover. All right? Again, framing, just talked about this, right? How are we going to talk about something, right? And with framing, words ultimately become important, okay? Because obviously the words that you're choosing in order to frame an issue are going to either put a positive or a negative spin on it, right? The Affordable Care Act is a fairly good example, right? It was originally healthcare reform. Most of us realize, hopefully most of us realize, healthcare needs reforming in the United States. Therefore, Obamacare should be a welcome opportunity to fix a real problem, right? Republicans, on the other hand, will generally classify most healthcare reform acts as socialized medicine. And if you really go back, not that y'all would have been old enough to pay attention, but 10, 12 years ago, they were talking about like death panels, like panels of doctors that just decide my grandfather is too old to continue living. Therefore, under Obamacare, he gets no more health care and he's just going to die. Right? That is not real, but that's what people are doing. Right? Right? Again, priming, right? That's just filtering it, providing cues. A lot of the times, priming is more geared not toward an event, but toward a person. Right, how you're going to think about somebody, how you're going to judge somebody once they become more relevant in the whole scheme of things. Right, media requires. I don't know, requires might be the wrong word. Media needs leaked information. Right, especially in instances in which the behaviors that the media is presenting, right, are negligible or terrible, are ill-founded, right? The U.S. government actually has what are called whistleblower protections. Whistleblower protections are protections for individuals that actually break the law, right, and like disseminate private information. And best example I can give you of this is a guy named Edward Snowden. You'll actually read about Snowden when we get to our foreign policy issue, or foreign policy section of this course, right before Christmas, right? Edward Snowden worked for the NSA. He stole, no other way to say it, he stole a whole bunch of classified documents and then gave them to The Guardian, which was an English newspaper, right? He didn't even give it to an American newspaper. What did all those NSA documents say? How many of you believe that the United States government looks through your cell phone?
Looks through it? Or like,
Yeah.
Like,
How many of you think that the United States government has every text message that you've ever sent anybody? Like stored in a file somewhere?
oh,
I don't think they care that
no.
much. I mean, some of them have it.
Well, okay, first of all, just so we're 100% clear, they absolutely have it.
Isn't that so crazy?
And,
The file? I really don't like the file.
okay, but see, here's the thing, and this y'all, because y'all might like want to change your behaviors in life, right? Because how many of you have ever done anything illegal with your cell phone?
I haven't done anything
Put your hand up.
illegal with my phone.
So you have never texted anybody about anything that would be considered illegal. You've never texted anybody about underage drinking, right? You've never texted anybody about like drugs. You've never sent your boyfriend or girlfriend a picture when you was under the age of 18 that you should not have sent.
Why are we talking about that?
You realize, just so we're crystal clear, you realize that if you take a picture, if a 16-year-old takes a picture of themselves, their own body, they can be charged with like the creation of child pornography. And then if you texted to your boyfriend or girlfriend the distribution of child pornography. And if you are the boyfriend or girlfriend, you are now in possession of child pornography. And here's the thing. I mean, Brooklyn was like, does the government really care? Do they?
Somewhat.
Not right care about Brooklyn right now. What happens if Brooklyn becomes a problem for the government later? Do you think all of a sudden the government could go back 15 years and be like, on March 4th of 2022, Brooklyn texted the following information to her friend, right? Like, that should alarm all of you. And we know all of this because of the media and Edward Snowden, right? It's just sad to me that most of y'all don't care, right? And here's the thing. By the way, anybody know where Edward Snowden is currently? Oh, he's alive. He's alive and in Russia. No. So he stole the information, flew to Hong Kong, right? Met the British reporter in Hong Kong, then flew to Russia and asked for asylum, right? Why? Because if he came back to the United States, Nancy Pelosi would make sure that he was hung.
Wait a second. There's something going on in the house of Nancy Pelosi.
Okay, so here's the thing. Just so we're crystal clear, so we understand this. Y'all know who Nancy Pelosi is, yes?
Yeah. Her husband's broken into. That's about all.
Oh, her house was broken in 2 months ago.
Are you recording?
Yes. I record all of my lectures so that I can post them. Tells me that you've never gone back to rewatch anything. She is the former Democratic Speaker of the House. And there's a dude named John Boehner. John Boehner is the former Republican Speaker of the House. Right? Between the two of them, which one of them do you think wants to execute Edward Snowden? Okay, so we're very confused. I'll give you two other people, right? Anybody ever heard of Michael Moore? Michael Moore is a documentary filmmaker. He is the most liberal human being I know of, right? He made a movie called Bowling for Columbine, right? Sicko, about like the American. He made a movie where he said that Cuba has better health care than America, right? He thinks communism is better than America. That's how liberal this dude is. Okay? I've never seen an American paddle a washing machine to Cuba. I just haven't. I've seen Cubans paddle washing machines to America. Alright? Okay? Glenn Beck used to be on Fox News. He actually created his own conservative, news media outlet. Right? How do you think one of those two people, right? One of those two people thinks that Edward Snowden is a hero. Anybody want to guess which one? So here's the fun thing. What I've done is given you a trick question. Because both Boehner and Pelosi, both the speakers of the House, want him executed. Both Michael Moore and Glenn Beck think he's a hero. Okay? But that also should explain something to you about the difference between government and private citizens regardless of party affiliation. Yes? Alright? WikiLeaks is another good example of this, right? This is the dude, WikiLeaks, Julian Assange, basically just had people that, disseminated information to him. He is living in an Ecuadorian embassy, I think. Because he also is trying to, evade people that want to execute him for treason, essentially, right? It's through WikiLeaks that we learn information like the 2016 Democratic primary process was rigged, right? If you didn't know that, right, now you do. In 2016, the Democrats rigged things so that Bernie Sanders couldn't win. They intentionally hid their debates on Saturday nights when nobody watches television, and they even had a campaign lined up. If Bernie Sanders got too close, they had ads ready to go to run on TV that said, "You can't trust Bernie the Jew." How do we know that? Because somebody stole John Podesta's emails and gave them to this guy. obviously, there's a whole bunch of people that don't like that, right? But other people that are wildly in favor of it. Okay? Adversarial journalism, this is just the idea of the media sort of being hostile to whoever it's investigating. It's happened throughout the course of history. The Vietnam War is a really good example of this. A lot of times media becomes hostile. The reality is media probably should be hostile, especially to elite interests that are not in line with the rest of America. Right? Or at the very least, they should be hostile toward, like, any behavior that is not easily explainable or in line with the majority opinions. Right? Media regulation. Okay, so here's the thing. I don't care about this. I'm pretty sure I took this off my test years ago. Okay? Oh no, I do care about the FCC. I do care about the FCC because that is a commission, right, that regulates airwaves. Right? Anybody? Y'all probably don't watch television anymore. If you were to watch CBS, right, can CBS use the F word? No. No. In fact, in like the 1970s, there was a comedian who had a whole bit on the 7 words you can't say on television. Right? Like just 7 words that you can't say on TV. Okay? And here's the thing. If you were to look that up right now and you were to read that list of 7 words, you would get to like 2 of them and be like, that's not bad. Right? Okay? But the FCC is the one who controls or regulates what you can and cannot do on media. Okay? Some people used to be a real big fan of Howard Stern, right? Because Howard Stern did not like the FCC and liked to mess with the FCC, right? So obviously you understand words that would be deemed offensive, you don't say on television, yes? Okay, Howard Stern was on the radio. FCC oversees the radio as well. Okay? Howard Stern once did a word association game on his radio show one morning, right? Where they used a very, very inappropriate word that is actually really appropriate in certain situations. Okay? Again, in order to not say the word, I will let you look that up on your own, right? But do we know what a willow is? The tree? You know, willows are trees. There's a specific type of willow. It's a little dirty. Okay? This is what I don't care about. The equal time rule used to exist where like CBS would have to give the same amount of time to both candidates. There's so much media now, we don't even enforce that anymore. I do want to get to net neutrality because this is probably really important as it pertains to the media. Do y'all understand, like when you look at broadcast media right now, how many of you get the television at the house? How many of you still get television? Nobody gets TV, nobody gets cable. Okay, now congratulations, you're paying attention. Blair, how many channels you get? Estimate. 20?
No, I got 120, I would say.
1,000?
No, definitely not.
500?
No.
250?
Maybe 50, Eric. I don't know. I don't watch TV, but I have TV.
Okay.
I watch it, but I have it.
Do your parents?
Yeah.
How many channels do they watch, do you think?
Like stay on?
Like watch, like regularly watch?
Maybe Fire TV 3 or 5.
3 or 4,
Yeah.
right? And they're paying for at least 50. You don't know how.
Yeah.
Why are they paying for 47 channels they don't watch?
Great question.
Because you don't have an option.
You have to.
Okay? The way television is now a commodity that is like packaged. Okay? Right now the internet is not that way. That is what net neutrality is. If net neutrality were to go away, internet companies can basically speed up Twitter and slow down TikTok and tell you, oh, well, you've got the Twitter package. You want the TikTok package? You pay more for that. You want the Snapchat package too? You pay even more for that. All right? Thank you. Have a good day.